Welcome to Bovine Banter with the Penn State Extension Dairy Team. This is Ginger Fenton, and I'm a dairy extension educator in Mercer County, Pennsylvania. Today, we will be talking with Gillian Plaugher, who is a grad student in Dr. Melissa Cantor's lab at Penn State University. Our discussion will focus on heat stress in calves. Thank you for being with us today, Gillian. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your research interests?
Yeah, it's great to be here today. I'm studying calf health, behavior, and performance. I'm currently researching the effects of forage on health status around scours and overall performance, as well as potential effects on cross-sucking in pair-housed calves. I'm really passionate about calf management on the farm and raising healthy and happy calves.
Great. Well, we appreciate your time and are glad that you were able to join us today. To start, can you please talk about why heat stress is different in calves versus, say, a mature dairy cow? Does it manifest differently or look different?
Yeah, so calves are slightly less susceptible to heat stress than mature cows due to their smaller body size. So they generate a little bit less body heat during their daily metabolic activities. And calves have a little bit more surface area relative to their body size to dissipate this heat compared to cows. So they're a little bit more efficient at this. But even though calves are slightly more heat tolerant, they can still become stressed pretty easily. Cows will experience heat stress at a little bit lower temperatures than calves because they burn a lot of energy during the day producing milk, gestating, or ruminating. Heat stress is easier to visualize in the lactating herd thanks to record keeping systems like DairyComp and PC Dart, because for milk reproduction and feed intake, we can really see those dips in productivity in the warmer months on the farm when there isn't a lot of heat abatement in place. And it's a lot more difficult to track these statistics in our young stock, where the record keeping is generally a little bit more relaxed. So we probably aren't measuring our intakes like we would in the lactating herd. And it can be really tough to quantify the true cost of heat stress in these young stock.
While there are other variables, I'm sure, like the season of the year and the location of the farm that play a role, if we think about calves, at what point in a calf's life should a producer start implementing strategies for mitigating heat stress?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as soon as calves are born and they're in their pen in the hutch or in their group, they can start becoming heat stressed if it's really warm outside. So we want to start as soon as we can with mitigating this heat in these warmer climates because dehydration can kill calves really quick. We need to keep them with fresh water all the time during this heat so that we can try and prevent that mortality rate from increasing.
Are there long-term effects on calves resulting from heat stress?
Yeah, absolutely. So calves are going to experience reduced average daily gain in feed intake due to heat stress, which can really negatively impact their performance a long way down the line. One of the main goals in raising calves is to get them weaned off milk and eating dry feed. And the benchmark for this is doubling their birth weight before weaning. So if we have these heat stressed calves that have really reduced intake, this will limit their daily gain a lot. And if you're not monitoring their body weights before weaning, this can really affect your weaning time. And when you're getting started breeding, we want those calves to be up at around 55% of your average lactating herd body weight. So if they're baby calves and they're not getting this intake that they need in this average daily gain, this can really negatively affect them all the way up through being a heifer and their reproduction at that point as well. It can also negatively affect their health status if they're expending a lot of energy trying to cool down rather than using that energy to keep their immune system working well. So we really need to try and mitigate this heat as best as we can to keep these calves healthy in the long run.
So it sounds like it's very important to start early. What do you see as key considerations for a producer to implement strategies for abating heat stress in calves?
So facilities can play a large factor in how a farm might go about managing heat abatement. Shade cloth is a really easy solution that can be utilized in a lot of different areas on the farm if there's no heat abatement currently in place. And it's a cheap option that's easy to install for the farmer. We can also change our bedding. Most farms will bed with a warmer straw in the winter, but during the summer, we can switch this out to sand or sawdust to keep the calves a little bit cooler. I've also seen box fans hung up inside hutches to help keep the air moving if there's electricity nearby. And it's always important to be monitoring ventilation, even if there's no active cooling in the calf facility, because ventilation is super important for preventing bovine respiratory disease in these younger calves.
What should a producer monitor to help them manage heat stress in calves? So, do you keep an eye on the environment, on the calves themselves? What should they be looking at?
So for monitoring, we can look at a temperature humidity index, and this is a chart that is available through the Dairy Calf and Heifer Association, or you can find these if you do a Google search online. And calves will start to get heat stressed at around 72 on this temperature humidity index. So this chart is just taking the relative humidity and the environmental temperature into account to determine when the calves might start feeling stressed. Some other signs farmers can look for is if the calves have dry noses, they're breathing really heavily or panting, which means the calf is probably working to cool itself off and it could be getting dehydrated.
If a producer wanted to take an active approach to managing heat stress in their calves, where should they start?
Yeah, so the most important thing, especially just for the welfare of these calves, is providing shade and fresh water at all times. So if your calves don't currently have shade and water, that's an easy start that you can make to help mitigate this heat. In younger calves, we can change the bedding, like I said earlier, and this can make a big difference in cooling them off. We can use a lot of different things for this. If you're out west, almond shells, we can use wood shavings, or even if you only have straw, if you are bedding it pretty densely, you can use less of it to help keep it cooler. Fans are another thing that are really easy to purchase. And if you have a calf barn as your facility, these are pretty easy to hang up in your barn so that we can keep the air moving to cool these calves off. Older calves that might be in group pens or out on lots, if they have sprinklers along the feed line, that's also an option like it is in our lactating herd. And providing electrolytes to these calves during really hot weather can make a big difference in keeping them hydrated and keeping them performing well during this heat stress.
Those are good tips, especially I'm thinking about where calf hutches are most frequently sited on the farm, and they're out in the open. They're rarely in shade and usually
Yeah.
in the sun. So those are great tips. As we wrap up, is there one important thing that you would like our listeners to understand about heat stress in dairy calves?
Yeah, so it might sound a little silly, but calves are just little cows. So if something is really detrimental to the performance of our lactating herd, it's probably also detrimental to our young stock. So we can say this about a lot of different management factors, but I think heat abatement is something that producers might forget about in younger animals while they're thinking about it in their lactating herd. But we want to make sure we're really raising our future herd the best we can because these replacements are our future herd and they are one of the largest costs on the farm. So keeping those calves really healthy is super important for the future of the farm.
Great information. Thank you very much, Gillian, for talking with us today. And thank you to all our listeners. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday as dairy educator Casey Hauer has a discussion on feeding calves.